Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about blood price of freedom. If you like this video, stay tuned for more just like it. If you want more content, support us by clicking the join button below. It really helps us out. Thank you so much. The question is, what was the blood price of freedom? Well, it could mean a few things. Maybe it means how much blood did it take to win our independence from Britain and the United States. Or maybe it's how much blood has been spilled in the name of freedom since then. Or perhaps it refers to the price we pay now, where the freedoms we once had are being taken away. All good questions and all valid answers. But today, we're going to focus on something else. We're talking about a book. This is Blood and Thunder, an epic history of the Haitian Revolution, which was published in 2021 by historian and National Book Award finalist David Price. The book tells the story of the Haitian Revolution, which was a slave revolt that took place in the French colony of Saint-Domingue, which is now the country of Haiti. The revolution began in 1791 and resulted in the first independent black republic in the world. And it was one hell of a fight. Saint-Domingue was a prosperous colony known for its production of sugar, coffee, and cotton. But all that wealth was produced by slaves who were brought in from Africa. In 1789, there were about 5,000 white colonists and 40,000 slaves in the colony. The white colonists were divided into two groups. The petits blancs were small landholders who owned a few slaves and were in debt. And then there were the grands blancs, or the great whites, who were wealthy plantation owners. Both groups wanted political power, but they disagreed on how to achieve it. The petits blancs felt that they were being ignored by the government, so they allied with the slaves to overthrow it. Inspired by the French Revolution, slaves began to organize rebellions against their masters, and the violence quickly escalated. By 1793, the rebels controlled most of the island, and the colony was plunged into chaos. Warring factions murdered each other in the streets, tortured each other's family members, and chopped each other up with machetes. It was brutal. France was also in the midst of its own revolution at the time, and the revolutionaries there were exactly thrilled about the idea of slavery. So in 1794, the French Assembly of Representatives declared that slavery was incompatible with the principles of the revolution, and they abolished it in all French territories. Unfortunately for the slaves in Haiti, though, this didn't mean freedom. France simply replaced slavery with a system of forced labor called liberté, which paid the workers a wage, but that wage was barely enough to cover the cost of living. So these workers were still essentially enslaved. But by 1796, the revolution was in full swing again, and the slaves rebelled once more. This time they fought against the French troops who were sent to restore order to the colony. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, the rebels were led by brilliant military minds like Jean-Jacques Dessalines and Toussaint Louverture. They used guerrilla tactics to defeat the French, and in 1801, Toussaint Louverture became the governor of Saint-Domingue. However, Napoleon Bonaparte came to power in France in 1799, and he reinstated slavery in the colony. In response, the Haitian rebels led another revolution and finally won. Their independence from France in 1804, it was a hard-fought victory, and it cost a lot of lives. Estimates vary, but it's thought that between 1791 and 1804, around 200,000 people were killed in the fighting, which was about 40% of the total population. The point is, it cost a lot of blood to gain the freedom of Haiti, which raises the question, was it worth it? Well, let's ask some historians. Here are some thoughts from an article published in the New York. It's Times called A Haitian Revolution Remembered in the Shadow of Its Past. It says, despite the heroism of the Haitian Revolution, the legacy of slavery weighs heavy in the national psyche, said historian Laurent Dubois, who teaches at Duke University. The scar of slavery is so deep in the African diaspora that even when you have achieved your freedom, it's always a problematic freedom, Dubois said, because you know that it can be taken away as easily as it was given. Another historian, Madison Smart Bloodworth, who teaches at the College of Charleston in South Carolina, said, the Haitian Revolution remains the touchstone of black liberation struggles everywhere, said Bloodworth, who wrote A History of the Early Republic. There is no freedom without sacrifice. And Haiti understood that better than anyone. And here are some thoughts from a review of David Price's book published in the Los Angeles Review of Books. It says, revolutions are rarely tidy affairs. They leave behind a welter of competing claims and unfinished business. But the blood price of freedom was high, and the accomplishment, of winning independence was matched only by the difficulty of building a new state out of a society founded on chattel slavery and racial terror. The founding ideals of liberty and equality proved fragile in the face of persistent inequality and persistent threats from abroad. The Haitian Revolution ended centuries of slavery in the Americas, inspiring abolitionists and activists around the world. However, the newly independent nation struggled to maintain its freedom. European powers did not recognize Haiti's independence and refused to do business with them. Haiti was then forced to turn to domestic resources to build their economy, and that meant relying on the labor of the very people who had been enslaved under the old regime. The nation descended into turmoil, and there were multiple coups d'etat throughout the 19th century. Despite all of this, Haiti remained free and independent. They paid the ultimate price for that freedom, and it seems as though the world would have been a better place if others had done the same. The encomienda system and Spanish colonies relied on the labor of indigenous peoples who were essentially enslaved. The British colonies relied on the labor of Africans who were brought over as slaves on ships like the Mayflower. And yes, slavery continued in Brazil until 1888, which was the last country in the Americas to abolish the practice. So what's the point of all of this? Why do we need to remember the blood price of freedom? Well, I think there are a couple reasons. For one, it reminds us of the cost of oppression. When we learn about the Haitian Revolution, we see how much suffering was caused by slavery and colonialism. We see how ordinary people were beaten, tortured, and murdered simply because of the color of their skin. When we remember that, it makes us less likely to accept oppression and more likely to stand up for justice. Secondly, remembering the blood price of freedom reminds us of the courage it takes to fight for our rights. The people of Haiti were up against a powerful colonial regime backed by the French military machine. But despite the odds, they fought back. They organized rebellions, they fought in wars, and they ultimately won their freedom. When we remember that, it gives us hope to fight for our own rights. No matter how powerful our oppressors may seem, we can take inspiration from the example of the Haitian Revolution and know that we can win. And lastly, remembering the blood price of freedom reminds us of the importance of voting. One of the reasons that the Haitian Revolution succeeded was because the slaves were able to unite across racial lines. They were able to put aside their differences and work together towards a common goal. And that common goal was freedom. When we remember that, it reminds us that voting is not just a right, it's a responsibility. If we want to live in a free country, we have to make sure that everyone has the right to vote. We have to protect the right to vote from those who would try to take it away. Because if we don't, then we're no better than the oppressors of the past. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please click the like button below. It really helps us out. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. We'll see you next time.